Level 1. The Wait Before the Crown. You are 9 years old, and already you understand something most men never will, that the world does not care about your grief. Your father is gone, your grandfather takes you in, and life simply continues. No pause, no mercy. You sit in the marble halls of Rome watching senators laugh and argue and perform, and something inside you goes quiet, not cold, not broken, just watching. You learn to read before most boys learn to fight. You learn Stoic philosophy before most men learn to feel. And the words of Epictetus reach you like a whisper across time. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. You hold that, like a stone in a river, smooth, grounded, unmovable, but you are still a child, and even unmovable stones. You write in a small journal, not for glory, not to be remembered, just to survive yourself. You write, begin the morning by saying to thyself, I shall meet with the busybody, the ungrateful, the arrogant. You are 9 years old, and you are already preparing yourself for a life that will demand everything. Level 2. The boy emperor doesn't get to cry. You don't want to be emperor. Let that sink in. The most powerful position in the known world, and you would trade it. For what? For a quiet room, a scroll, a conversation with a philosopher, a single day without someone needing something from you. But Hadrian sees something in you, then Antoninus sees it, and Rome chooses you. You are 17 when Antoninus adopts you, not asks you, adopts you, like property transferred between careful hands. And you smile, you bow, you accept. Because what else do you do when the empire decides your life belongs to it? You begin training in rhetoric, in law, in war, in diplomacy. Every morning, before dawn, you wake not because someone tells you to, but because you are terrified of becoming the kind of man who wastes the morning. You have watched emperors rot. You have watched power soften men into something lesser. And you write to yourself, quietly, viciously, never esteem anything as of advantage to you. That will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. You tape that around your rib cage like armor, because the palace is full of people who will try to make you small by making you feel important. You always see through it, and somehow that loneliness is the price of seeing clearly. Level 3. Philosophy is not peace. It is war. People think wisdom is calm. They are wrong. Wisdom is a blade you turn on yourself. Every night you sit with your thoughts and you interrogate them. Was I patient today? Was I just? Did I let ego slip through the cracks? Most men review their day to feel good about it. You review yours to find what failed. Your Stoic teachers, Rusticus, Apollonius, Fronto, they gave you a mirror, and what you see in it is not a hero, not a god emperor, a man, fragile, prone to anger, prone to grief he doesn't know what to do with. You write it down, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But some nights the mind does not cooperate. Some nights the philosophy feels like a boat in a storm you built with your own thoughts. You pace the room, you breathe, you return to the page, because the page never judges you. The page is the one place in the empire where Marcus Aurelius does not have to be Marcus Aurelius. He can just be a man, asking questions no one else is brave enough to ask. Questions like, what is the point of all this? What does it mean to lead when you are not sure you are leading correctly? How do you carry an empire when you can barely carry yourself? You write, you breathe, you continue. That is the practice. Level 4. The throne is a prison with gold walls. The year is 161 AD. Antoninus is dead. And just like that, the world places its full weight on your shoulders. You are 40 years old. You have spent your entire adult life preparing for this. And nothing prepared you for this. The morning after your coronation, you stand at the window of the Palatine Palace. Rome stretches below you, endless and hungry. Millions of people, millions of problems, millions of lives that now, in some terrifying sense, depend on the choices you make before breakfast. You feel it physically, like a hand pressing down on your chest, but you do not let them see that. You turn from the window, you straighten your shoulders, you walk into the hall, and you are the emperor, calm, composed, reasonable beyond reason, just beyond justice. Inside, you are a man having a very quiet crisis, but outside, you perform the role the world needs you to play, not from dishonesty, from duty. There is a difference. You know this. You hold this. Do not indulge in dreams of having leisure or of one day quitting public life and retreating to private ease. Instead, put your shoulder to the wheel, now while you still can. You said that to yourself. In a journal no one was supposed to read, and still you showed up. Level 5, war comes when you least want peace. You are not a warrior. You want to be clear about that. You are a philosopher. You want books and debate and long mornings, thinking about the nature of the universe. But the universe has other plans. The Parthians attack in the east. The Germanic tribes mass at the Danube. Plague spreads through the legions like a dark rumor. And you must go to war. You ride out in armor that fits awkwardly, on a body built for scrolls, not swords. And you sit in tents that smell like mud and blood and fear. And you make decisions that will kill men, men with families, men with names you will never know. And that weight, you do not shake it off. You carry it. You carry every name you don't know, because it is the only honest thing you can do. You write, in a cold tent on the Danube, think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly. The generals think you are strange. They want a warrior emperor, fire and fury. You give them strategy, patience, endurance. You are on the front lines for nearly a decade, a philosopher in the mud, refusing to let the darkness of war darken him. That is the real battle, not Parthia, not Germania. You, every single day. Level 6. The children you couldn't save. No one talks about this part. The history books skim over it. The philosophy quotes never touch it. But you had 14 children. 14. And most of them didn't survive. Let that breathe for a moment. You held small hands that went still. You sat at bedsides in palaces that felt like tombs. You performed the public grief of an emperor, measured, composed, dignified, while somewhere inside you a father was screaming. You wrote about it, not directly, never directly, but you wrote, loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. You wrote that, and you believed it, and it still wasn't enough to make it not hurt, because philosophy is not anesthesia. It does not remove pain. It teaches you how to hold pain without being destroyed by it. And there is an enormous difference. One is escape, the other is courage. You chose courage. Every time, even when Commodus, your surviving son, began to show you who he would become. You saw it. You saw the cruelty behind the boy's eyes. And you loved him anyway, because he was yours. And you failed him, or the world failed him, or you were simply not there enough, because the empire kept calling you away from the rooms where fathers and sons figure out how to love each other. That failure, you carried it quietly to the end. Level 7. The plague that taught you everything. There is a particular kind of humility that only catastrophe can teach. You learned it from a plague. The Antonine plague swept through your empire like a quiet apocalypse. 5 million dead, maybe more. Soldiers, senators, children, slaves. Death does not discriminate. You always knew this philosophically. Now you knew it personally. You watched the city change. The streets emptied, the markets went silent, and you, the most powerful man alive, could not stop it, could not fix it, could not negotiate with it. You could only respond. You organized relief. You sold palace treasure to fund the response. You stayed visible, calm, steady when everything inside you was shaking. And you wrote, our life is what our thoughts make it. You wrote that as bodies were being carried past your window, not as denial, not as spiritual bypassing, as instruction, as a reminder that the mind must remain a place of clarity, even when the world is a place of chaos. The plague lasted 15 years, and you stayed. You did not run to a villa in the hills. You did not hide behind the palace walls. You stayed in it, because a shepherd does not leave the flock. Because the weather turns dark, he becomes more present, more careful, more awake. That was you, in the plague years, than you had ever been, to the fragility of everything you loved. Level 8, the loneliest room in the world. Do you know what it is like to be surrounded by 1,000 people and still be completely alone? You do. Every emperor does. But most emperors feel that loneliness with power, excess, distraction, gold, flattery, cruelty. You filled it with questions. You lay awake in the imperial chamber, the most opulent room in the known world, and you asked yourself, what am I at the core of myself? Am I doing this right? Does any of this matter? Not rhetorical questions, real questions, desperate ones, questions a man asks when no one is watching, and the armor comes off, and there is just a human being left, staring at the ceiling, in the dark. Your wife, Faustina, there were rumors about her. The court gossiped, the historians recorded, and you defended her, publicly, consistently, not out of blindness, out of choice, because you understood something about people, about love, about the limits of certainty, that you cannot know everything. And choosing dignity over suspicion is itself a kind of wisdom, or maybe it was just love. Sometimes the philosophy and the feeling are the same thing. Level 9, the last campaign, the Danube frontier. Winter, you are almost 60 years old, and you are back in the mud. Your body is failing. The cold eats through you in ways it didn't when you were 40. Your chest aches, your joints protest, your sleep is broken and thin. But the Germanic tribes have crossed the river, and the empire does not care that the emperor is tired. So you go. You sit in your tent at night, writing by firelight, and you know this is probably the last time. Not dramatically, not with despair, just knowing. The way you know when a season is ending, not because anything announces it, but because you can feel the shift in the air, and you write something that will outlast you. By nearly 2,000 years, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. You meant it as urgency, as a call to presence, not as morbidity. Live now, because now is all there is. The campaign continues, you win, you stabilize, you endure. But you are running on something, beyond energy now, beyond will. You are running on purpose, and purpose, you have discovered, is the only fuel that doesn't run out before the work is done. Level 10, what you leave behind. 180 ad, Vindobona, modern day Vienna. You are dying. The fever came weeks ago. The body, your faithful, suffering, remarkable body, is finally done. And you think about what you leave behind. Not the monuments, not the victories, not the borders you stabilized or the wars you ended. You think about the journal, the one you never meant anyone to read. Meditations, words you wrote to yourself in stolen moments between battles and judgments and grief. You think these were never for them. These were just me, trying to be better, trying to understand, trying not to be consumed by the impossible weight of being human while carrying the impossible weight of an empire. And yet, something tells you these words will outlive everything else. The empire will fall. Rome always falls eventually. Every empire does. But a man talking honestly to himself about how to be good in a world that makes goodness difficult, that never goes out of fashion. You close your eyes and you think of every morning you woke before dawn, every grief you transformed into discipline, every injustice you refused to answer with cruelty, every moment you chose the harder, quieter, better path. And you think it was enough. Not perfect, never perfect, but enough. You exhale. And somewhere across 2,000 years of time, a person reads your words for the first time and feels less alone. That was the empire that lasted. Not marble, not legions, not gold. Just one man's honest voice, whispering across centuries. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. You were Marcus Aurelius, emperor, philosopher, father, warrior, grief carrier, truth seeker, and you hid your pain so that everyone around you could find their strength. The screen fades to black. The journal remains open. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one.